Hi Year 4, here is your Tuesday science lesson and your TLP is, can I explain that unsupported objects fall to Earth because of the force of gravity? We're going to learn a little bit about a very famous scientist and philosopher and mathematician called Sir Isaac Newton.
It was very nice to be home, just sitting quietly in the garden and thinking hard. My brain was bulging with all the new stuff I'd learnt at Cambridge. Darwin, Galileo, Pasteur, Curie, Leonardo, Columbus. One evening I was sitting in the orchard underneath an apple tree, just thinking about things, when something whacked me on the head. An apple had fallen off the tree onto my head. Now, that sent me thinking.
So here's a bit more information about Sir Isaac Newton. He was born in 1642 towards the end of the English Civil War, and in a time of religious and social conflict, Isaac's life was far from happy. Going against his mother's wishes and attending Cambridge University, Isaac studied science, philosophy and theology, the nature of God. Although his mother could afford for him to have a luxury education, he was forced to work as a Caesar, a servant to more privileged students, to fund his studies. This placed Newton at the bottom of the social ladder, determined by father's wealth and status, and caused him to become bitter and resentful. He was seen as an outcast, but despite this, continued to enjoy his studies. In 1665, Cambridge, like London, was full of rats. The rats carried fleas and the fleas carried the plague, the Black Death. People were dying all over the place at a rate of up to 7,000 a day. Death usually came within 3 to 5 days. The plague caused internal bleeding, black spots and large tumours. Isaac was unwillingly forced to flee home, but what he did there revolutionised science. The best idea ever, his law of gravity. One day when he was drinking tea in his garden, he saw an apple fall to the ground. He started thinking about why it fell, and finally decided that the same force, gravity, kept the moon in the sky around the Earth and also the planets in the sky around the sun. Because the moon has a smaller mass than Earth, there is less of a gravitational pull acting upon objects. Newton's first law of motion. If left alone, a motionless object doesn't move, whereas a moving object will carry on moving in a straight line as long as another force doesn't make it change course. Newton's second law of motion. If an object is hit with a large force, it will travel at a greater speed in the same direction. Newton's third law of motion. When an object exerts a force on another object, the second object will push back just as hard. Now here's a cool poem to remember Sir Isaac Newton's 3 laws. Newton was a clever man, an avid scientific fan. He questioned many things he saw, like ones we had no answer for. He thought them through right to their cause, then gave us many handy laws. Newton's first law of motion. Without a force of push or pull, an object will remain quite still. With just one push at just one time, that object moves in one straight line. Newton's second law of motion. A bigger force accelerates an object that is heavy weight, while objects of a smaller mass don't need much force to move them fast. Newton's third law of motion. Now bend a stick before it cracks, you'll feel its force of pushing back. For every action, there will be an equal one with an opposite reaction. Isaac Newton is known as one of the greatest scientists who ever lived. So Year 4, we're going to recap some work you may have done on forces lower down the school. As you can see here, I've got some vehicles that aren't moving. They're not going to go anywhere, not until I apply a force. So I'm now going to push the vehicles and they will move. I can also pull the vehicles back. They're not going to go anywhere unless I apply the force from my hand to make them move. I can also demonstrate this to you with some blue tack. Here we go, I've got a piece of blue tack. You all love blue tack. It's nice and sensory. I can pull the blue tack and make it stretch. Or I can squish it together. I can push it back together. So I can pull my blue tack and I can push it back together. You could go and find some slime or some blue tack or maybe even some Play-Doh in your house and have a go at that. Another one here, I've got a ball. It'd be lovely to play a nice game with my ball, but if I just put it on the table, nothing's going to happen. There's going to be no game, but I can roll my ball, I can push and pull my ball across the table. Something else you might have at home where you could have a go at a push and a pull force is an elastic band. You could have a go at pinging them, maybe at some toy soldiers if you've got any. Don't ping them at your brothers and sisters though, but you could have a go at pulling. Maybe you've got loom bands if you haven't got elastic bands, or even hair bands. If you've got some hair bands, you can have a go at stretching and pulling some elastic bands. Okay, so this is a Newton meter and it is named after Sir Isaac Newton. Newtons are the units used to measure how much force is needed to make an object move. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but it's the weight of the object divided by 100 equals the newtons. Right, so we are now going to have a go at reading the scale of a Newton meter. So I'm going to put some objects on. Okay, so this is the first one. It's a pencil case full of lots of equipment. Have a look and see if you can read the scale there. Well done, that's right, that's 3 newtons. Okay, let's have a go at this one now. How many newtons is that? Well done, that's right, that's 2 newtons. I'm just going to turn this one round to show you that on the back of the Newton meter, it measures the weight of the object. And you'll notice that the weight is 200 grams. So 200 grams divided by 100 gives us our 2 newtons of force. What about Mrs. Brumman's water bottle? How many newtons does it take to move that? Well done, that's 5 newtons. So it weighs how many grams? Fantastic, 500 grams. Bit of a challenge, this one. See if you can read this scale. Well done, that's right, 0.5 newtons. So half a newton to lift the scissors. Another challenge here for you. This one weighs 50 grams. I wonder if you can guess how many newtons that would be. Well done, that's right. 0.5 newtons. Okay, Year 4, I've collected some objects around school and I'm going to have a go at dropping them to see if there's any difference between them in how they fall to the ground. Okay, so I've got an empty milk carton, a feather, an apple, a ball with some holes in it, and a plastic bag. Okay, I am going to stand on the table to do this so you get a nice drop to watch. Think about your health and safety at home. Ask a grown-up if you're going to start climbing up on things, and definitely make sure they're there with you when you're doing this. Or you can just do it from standing up, that's fine. Right, so let's have a go. Let's drop the feather first of all. Ready? Ooh, that was quite slow. It sort of caught in the air as it fell. Right, here's the ball. Ooh, that went down in a dead straight line. What about the milk carton? That made a nice noise when it hit the ground. Again, it was quite straight. What about this plastic bag? Ooh, ooh, ooh. That took ages to fall to the ground. It like floated. And finally, like what fell on Isaac Newton's head from the tree, an apple, straight down, hit the floor. So why don't you collect some objects around your house and have a go? Remember what I said though, be safe.